Things are looking up. Your health tech startup just raised Series A. Your sales team is finally growing, and marketing is expected to support the sales cycle. So you do what everyone does. You start a blog, launch a LinkedIn presence, create case studies, and maybe even start a podcast. But 6 months later, your team of 2 is drowning in content requests. Your sales team still can't find what they need, and your CEO is asking why the content you're making isn't moving the needle. Most of the content that health tech companies create actively hurt their sales process. I learned this the hard way, not as a consultant yet, but as a caregiver on the receiving end of health tech products that completely missed the mark. In this video, we're going to talk about the 80-20 rule as applied to health tech content, the content you absolutely need to close deals, and what you can skip entirely without any guilt or worry. If you're a CCO, CRO, or founder with a lean marketing team, this video is for you. By the end, you'll know exactly which content types drive contracts, which ones waste resources, say that 5 times fast, and how to build a content engine that's useful and that your sales teams will actually use. Let's go. Typically, health tech marketing creates what they think buyers need: blog posts about industry trends, thought leadership on LinkedIn, and maybe some patient success stories. Meanwhile, your sales team is in demo calls getting asked the same 5 questions over and over again. How does this integrate with our EHR? What's your uptime SLA? Show me the data security certifications. And when they go looking for content to answer these questions, they find a blog post about the future of telehealth from 3 months ago. By managing care for my late husband, who had 1 PCP and 9 specialists, I found that there's a huge, massive gap between what health tech companies publish and what we need as users. What I needed was a clear 2-minute video showing exactly how to navigate the portal, where to find test results, and how to message my care team. But instead, companies were publishing generic content that may have checked a box, but didn't solve anyone's problems. And you know what? Your enterprise buyers experience the same frustration, just on a different level. Now let's talk about how to apply the 80-20 principle to health tech content. 20% of your health tech content should support 80% of your sales. The trick is figuring out which 20% is for your specific ICP. For most Series A and Series B health tech startups that are selling to hospitals and health plans, this is what it typically looks like. First, your sales enablement suite, one-pagers, competitive battle cards, and ROI calculators that your AEs need in every single deal. Second, you've got your pre-sales technical content, integration guides, security documentation, and implementation timelines. Third, buyer education content that addresses the specific questions that your ICP would ask at each stage of evaluation. And that's your foundation. Now, what's the 80% that you can either skip or deprioritize? Generic thought leadership that doesn't tie to your differentiators, social media content that's just for presence, blog posts about industry news that don't connect to your product value, and weekly newsletters that nobody's opening. I'm not saying that each of these pieces of content don't have any value, but if your team is already stretched thin, this kind of content won't move your contracts forward, and your buyers don't have time for it either. Healthcare decision makers are juggling patient care, regulatory compliance, and budget pressures. What they need is content that helps them make faster and more confident decisions, not more noise to filter through. All right, so how do you build this lean content engine? Start with a sales content audit. Sit down with your sales team and ask them these 3 questions. What content do you wish you had in every deal? What questions do prospects ask that you can't easily answer? What content do you have that you never use? And the answers to those 3 questions are going to help you decide what kind of content to prioritize. From there, you create your content operations roadmap in quarters, not years. First quarter might be building out your core sales enablement suite. Second quarter could be tackling the top 5 pre-sales technical questions. You're not trying to make a content library to compete with HubSpot here. You're trying to close more deals with the small team that you have. The second part of this is establishing content governance that prevents scope creep. Here's a simple rule. Before you create any new content, ask, will this directly support a deal in the next 90 days? And if the answer is no, either put it in the backlog or cut it entirely. This is especially important when you're getting requests from the CEO who saw a competitor's blog post and wants to mimic it, or when sales wants something for social that's not tied to an actual opportunity. In other words, what I'm saying is, don't just create content for content's sake or to try to rival one of your competitors. Your strategy should be to only create the assets that reduce sales cycles, increase win rates, and improve customer retention. Because really, everything else is just a distraction for what you're trying to achieve. When it comes to metrics, you need to stop tracking blog traffic and social impressions. I mean, Like seriously, just stop. Those are vanity metrics that make you feel busy, but they don't actually tell you if your content is working. Instead, you want to track sales metrics like these. How many deals reference specific content assets? What's the average sales cycle length for deals with content engagement versus without? And what's your win rate when prospects consume pre-sales education content? Track the content usage by your sales team. If people are not downloading and sharing things, then it's not valuable. And track time to value for your content investments. If it took your team 3 months to create an ebook, but it only got used in one deal, that's a problem. One company I worked with was measuring monthly blog visitors and social engagement, the classic vanity metrics. When we shifted to tracking content asset usage in closed-won deals, we discovered that there were 3 pieces of content that drove 70% of their sales outcome: a technical integration guide, an ROI calculator, and a provider adoption playbook. But guess what? This is the kicker. Those 3 assets made up 5% of all the content that they created in that year. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to the 80-20 rule. We killed everything else on the roadmap and doubled down on variations of those 3 assets by repurposing the content for different buyer personas. By doing that, the length of sales cycles dropped by 30%, and the marketing team was real happy because they went from drowning in content to making strategic assets. It's a great example of what happens when you track the right metrics. All right, so here's your 4 takeaways. 1, most health tech content actively hurts your sales process because it's disconnected from what your buyers actually need. So stop creating content in a vacuum just for content's sake. 2, apply the 80-20 rule ruthlessly. Focus on the 20% of content that drives 80% of your sales. Your sales enablement suite, pre-sales technical content, and buyer stage-specific education. Everything else can wait or get cut. 3, build your content engine by auditing with sales first, then create a quarterly roadmap that prevents scope creep. Always ask, will this content support a deal in the next 90 days? And if the answer is no, you know what to do. Don't do it. 4, measure what matters. Track sales metrics, not vanity metrics. Focus on content usage in closed deals, sales cycle impact, and team adoption rates. You don't need a massive content library to support your sales effectively. All you need is the right content that solves real problems for real buyers. Drop a comment and tell me, what's one piece of content your sales team wishes they had right now? I'd love to hear what you're working on and even how I can help as a health tech and sales enablement consultant. I've created a free resource called the 5-Day Health Tech Sales Audit. It's a free 5-day educational email course to help you find the leaks in your pipeline so deals stop going dark. You'll get a day-by-day breakdown of exactly what to analyze, from conversion rates to stakeholder gaps to process breakdowns. The link is in the description. If you're ready to build a content strategy that actually supports sales revenue, check out the link in the description to see how we can work together. And in the meantime, check out one of these videos next.